The Halloween Massacre, an original novel by Jeremy Terry. Chapter 2. Football Practice. A brisk autumn wind blew brown and orange leaves from the trees near the Haddonfield High School football field. They tumbled along the ground, piled up in drifts against the chain-link fence and beneath the bleachers. 16-year-old Tommy Doyle bent over and plucked one from those gathered beneath the scarred picnic table he sat at. His long blonde hair fluttered in the breeze as he began to pluck the leaf apart. Those that knew him as a young child could still see the boy he had once been buried beneath his careworn features. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he seemed constantly on edge, as if he expected someone to attack him at any second. "You never smile, Tommy," thought 15-year-old Edgar Eds Haskins. Eds was small for his age, not very athletic, and cursed with horrible eyesight. He pushed his glasses back in place and sighed. He knew what was bothering his friend, knew it very well. Eds lived on the same street as Tommy and Lindsay Wallace. He remembered the dreadful night back in 1978. He and his parents woke to the sound of gunfire a few houses over, and had rushed outside to stare once the sheriff's deputies had arrived. He remembered thinking that the red bubble lights on the deputies' cruisers' roofs made the trees along the street seem to bleed. Ed shoved his battered copy of Tolkien's Fellowship of the Rings into his backpack before turning to stare at Tommy. "Are you really going to go?" Tommy glanced out across the football field to where Lindsay Wallace and Annie Thompson were practicing with the other members of the cheerleading team. Beyond them, star quarterback and Lindsay's current boyfriend, Victor "Vic" Torrington, completed a handoff to running back Jason Kilpatrick. Normal kids going through their everyday lives. Even Lindsay. How did they do it? How did she do it after everything they'd been through? "I'm doing good to get out of bed and put my shirt on the right side out," he thought. "Tommy?" He turned back and nodded. "Yeah, I'm gonna go. My therapist says it will be good for me to." He paused to do air quotes with his fingers. "Face my boogeyman." What a fucking joke. Tommy rolled his eyes and reached down to pull a 6-inch long switchblade knife from his sock. He depressed the button to release the blade and began cleaning his fingernails with the tip. "I hate that thing," Ed said, frowning at him. "Why do you have it?" Tommy shrugged. "It enhances my sense of security." "You look like a hoodlum. You're going to get in trouble if someone else catches you with that thing." "So what's new?" Tommy asked. He closed the blade and put the knife back in his sock. "There, happy?" "Ecstatic," Ed said. "What do your parents think about you going to the show?" "They are all for it. They're ready to jump on board with anything that might help. I guess they're tired of me waking up screaming in the middle of the night. Hell, Dad offered to buy my ticket, but I told him it was complimentary. The TV people said it was free for someone so important to the narrative." "Of course, man," Ed said. "You know better than most. You were there that night. You saw him." Tommy looked down at his hands. "I don't know better than Lori." "True," Ed said. "How is she? Have you heard?" "Her parents still have her in therapy, but she seems okay. She just graduated from college. I hear she's going to be a teacher." A wistful expression came over Ed's face. "I wish she was going to be my teacher. Damn, she's fine. It's too bad her folks moved them all away." A shrill whistle blared, signaling the end of practice, and the two boys gathered their things. They stood and walked over to where Lindsay and Annie were packing up. God, Ed's thought. Talk about fine. He stared at the two girls in awe. Annie was light where Lindsay was dark. Annie's hair was blonde, Lindsay's was black. They turned identical smiles on the boys, stunning them speechless. "Why don't you take a picture?" Annie asked, giggling. "It'll last longer." Ed's blushed crimson and looked away. He cleared his throat and spoke, his voice much higher than normal. "So, Lindsay, are you planning to go to the TV show tomorrow?" A strange expression passed over Lindsay's face as she glanced at Tommy. "I don't think so, Eds. I don't need to see that man again. I got my closure years ago. Annie nodded, putting an arm around the other girl's shoulders. I don't blame her for not wanting to dredge up all those old memories. My cousin Nancy went through some similar shit a few years ago, and it really messed her up. Facing the monster that did it wouldn't help her. Yeah, you're probably right, Ed said. You moved here from Ohio, right? Correct, Annie said. I lived in a town called Springwood. Ed frowned, his brow wrinkling behind his large glasses. Wait a minute, I remember hearing something about that town in the news. There was a wacko killing kids, right? He used a glove that he made that had 4 razors for fingers? That's right, Annie said. His name was Fred Krueger. The newspapers called him the Springwood Slasher. Another butcher, Tommy muttered, shaking his head in disgust. The newspapers around here dubbed Michael Myers the babysitter killer. Why do they feel the need to sensationalize every horrible thing? It's simple, Ed said. They have no souls. All they care about is the bottom line. How many papers can we sell? How many people can we get to watch their show on the boob tube? Tommy spit in the dry grass. They make me sick. I agree with you, Annie continued. It was the same back in '68 when Krueger was caught and tried for the murders. The bad thing was, he got away with it. He was acquitted by the courts due to an error made by the police. He walked out of the court smiling, free to take his killing spree on the road. Too bad for him the parents of Springwood had other plans for him. They followed him to the boiler room he worked in, the place where he took his victims, and they burned it to the ground with him inside. Serves the freak right, Tommy said. I hope he suffered. 1968 is ages ago, though, Ed said. You said your cousin went through something a few years ago. Right, Annie said, smiling at him. This is where the story gets weird. A new series of murders started up. The police blamed a teenage boy named Rod Lane at first. He was arrested and hung himself in his jail cell before he could go to trial. The funny thing was that more people died after Rod committed suicide. Nancy said Freddy Krueger was the killer. She said that Freddy would come after you in your dreams, and if you died in your sleep, you died for real. It all ended when she witnessed her boyfriend Glenn get killed. He lived in the house across the street and saw it all happen through his bedroom window. I guess seeing that kind of broke her. They never did catch the real killer. Nancy was never the same after that. My parents refused to let me talk to her, and we moved out of town soon after. They were all silent for a moment, and then Ed's whistled. That's gnarly. A dead man that kills you in your sleep? A ghost you can't escape because everyone has to sleep eventually? Now that's what you call a real boogeyman, right, Tommy? Tommy grimaced at the question and looked away. Eds, you dope, Lindsay said, slapping the small boy's shoulder. Have some tact. Ed's eyes went wide as realization washed over him. He turned to Tommy. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry, dude. Tommy waved the apology away, trying to put on a brave face as Vic and Jason walked up. What are you sorry for, Edgar? Vic asked as he put his arm around Lindsay's waist, resting his hand low on her hip. You don't have to apologize for existing. Haven't you heard? It's cool to be a nerd these days. Yeah, dude, Jason said, trying to put his arm around Annie, who brushed it off, pinching her nose and waving a hand in front of her face. Jason sniffed his armpit and shrugged. Don't worry about it, bro. Let your nerd flag fly. Tommy took a step forward, but stopped when Lindsay stepped between them all, her hands on her hips. That's enough, Vic. Eds is my friend, so lay off. Vic looked chagrined. I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. I was just having a little fun. Eds is all right in my book. Yeah, Jason said. I happen to be a nerd myself. I just hide it, you know. I have a reputation as a dumb jock to keep up. It wouldn't pay for anyone to find out I have a brain inside this dome. Yeah, Annie said. That would be awful. They all grabbed their things and drifted towards the parking lot where Vic's brand new Mustang and Ed's ancient clunker waited. So, Vic said as they reached the vehicles, party at my house after the football game tomorrow night? You are all invited, of course. The one rule is that everyone has to come in costume. Annie and Lindsay grinned. We're in. We got the perfect outfits. Do tell, Jason said, raising one eyebrow. Is it sexy nurses? Slutty librarians? Vic punched Jason's arm. Dude, don't call my girlfriend a slut. I didn't. Annie rolled her eyes as she climbed into the back seat of Vic's car beside Lindsay. You boys will just have to wait until tomorrow to find out. The suspense is killing me, Jason said, climbing in the front passenger seat. Just please don't come wearing one of those silver shamrock masks. I swear I'm hearing that song in my sleep at night. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 Annie sang. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Jason growled. Vic opened the driver's side door of the car and paused to look over the roof at Tommy and Ed's. I meant what I said. You both should come. It'll make the girls happy. Just remember to wear a costume. Ed's nodded and Tommy grimaced again. They watched as Vic cranked the muscle car's ignition and peeled out of the parking lot onto the street. I wonder why people like him think they need a car that loud, Ed's mused. Is it manly or something? Or something, Tommy said as they got into his rusted car. He turned the key, praying to the car gods, and it turned over sluggishly and finally caught, spewing a toxic cloud of black smoke from the tailpipe. Ed's waved a hand in front of his face. This thing is single-handedly responsible for the hole in the ozone layer. Perhaps, Tommy said as he put it in drive and pulled out onto the road. But the kid is broke, so it'll have to do. I get you, Ed said, rolling down his window to let in the cool evening air. At least you have a car. I'd be riding Shanksmere if it wasn't for you. Shanksmere? You know, hoofing it, walking dude? Oh, I got you, Tommy said. He turned a corner onto a street lined with homes. So are you going to dress up for the party? Tommy shook his head. You know I don't do that. I haven't since... Anyway, who wants to go to Vic's dumb party? I'm going straight home after the TV show wraps up. My plan is to veg out with some Raiders of the Lost Ark. Are you sure, man? Ed's asked. I'm going to go and I don't want to fly solo. Besides, Lindsay will be there. Of course she will, Tommy said. She's Vic's girlfriend. Ed's raised his hands. I'm just saying, you never know what might happen. You should put yourself out there and let the chips fall where they may. Tommy laughed. That's rich coming from you. Tell me, when are you going to put the moves on Annie? Ed's looked out the window at the passing houses inside. That's different. I don't have a chance with her, but you and Lindsay? You have shared experience between you that few people have. Plus, I have seen the way she looks at you when Vic isn't around. Bullshit, Tommy breathed. He turned the corner onto Ed's street and parked in front of his house. Ed's climbed out and then leaned into the window. I know you have a lot on your mind. You have my number. Call me if you need to talk or scream or whatever. You're my bro. Tommy reached over and bumped knuckles with Ed's. I know. I appreciate that. I'll catch you on the flip side. Ed's nodded and pulled his head out of the car. He stood and watched his friend pull away and drive out of sight. Chapter 3, Reminiscence. Sheriff Lee Brackett sat on his front porch smoking an unfiltered cigarette as he rocked slowly back and forth in his grandfather's rocking chair. A large glass of Kentucky bourbon rested on an upturned wooden milk crate beside him. He was thinner than he once was, because he didn't eat much anymore. He didn't have an appetite at all most days. His hair was thinner and flecked with gray, and there were deep lines at the corners of his eyes. Evidence of too much pain. He lifted the cigarette and took a puff. He'd been a smoker since his early teenage years, but The switch to unfiltered smokes was a recent thing he had done following his daughter Annie's death. Suicide by lung cancer, he thought, taking a sip of bourbon. Pathetic. You're a failure at everything you try, you know that? You can't even put yourself out of your own misery. Your doctor said you were healthy as a horse at your last checkup. It's ironic that your daughter would be taken with so much possibility ahead of her, while an old man like you that wants to join her just keeps going on and on. A car backfiring drew his attention, and he turned to see Tommy Doyle puttering past the old Strode house in his broken-down death trap of a car. He thought about Tommy, Lori, Lindsay, and all of the other lives touched by Michael Myers and frowned. So much hurt. The porch light came on at the Strode house, and one of the new owners stepped out with a bag of trash in his hands. He saw Brackett watching and threw him a wave. Brackett smiled and waved back. Their last name was DeStefano, and they'd moved down from upstate New York. They were nice people, but they would always be from away. The house would never be known as the DeStefano house. It would always be the Strode house after what happened the night he came home. The events of the night were seared into his brain. He had relived it so many times in both the waking world and his nightmares. He could detail everything he had seen and done down to the second it happened. He remembered pulling up in front of the Doyle house and seeing Loomis sprinting from the front door into the yard with his revolver drawn. He shot Michael, and the killer fell from the second floor. He had to be near. They had to find him before it was too late. Brackett followed Loomis along the side of the house into the wooded lot behind the house, and they'd found him there. Michael Myers, the babysitter killer, the monster from the blackest pit of hell. Loomis wanted to put a bullet in Myers' head, wanted to finish him off, and Brackett stopped him. God in heaven, I stopped him, he thought. A lump formed in his throat, and he took a big swallow of bourbon to wash it down. That was before he knew what the bastard had done, before his world came crashing down around it. That was before they'd found Annie in the garage behind the Wallace house. Her throat slashed so deeply, her esophagus had been cut in two. I should have let Loomis finish the monster off, he thought, taking a final drag on his cigarette, before butting it out in the ashtray by his drink. Hell, I should have done it myself. Wasn't that the way? You live a life full of regrets, and then you die. He picked up the glass and finished off the last of the alcohol. I'm having morbid thoughts this evening, he thought. It must be that damn Revelation show stirring up all the bad shit. What were they thinking, bringing not one but two killers into town? Michael was bad enough, but the other one? Brackett had read up on Jebediah Sawyer, and what he learned made him physically ill. The FBI found the Sawyer house full of human bones arranged as macabre decorations. Worse, they found a freezer full of butchered human meat ready to cook. The Sawyers were fucking cannibals. Could you believe that? Real-life cannibals in modern-day America. They called Jebediah Sawyer Leatherface because he liked to skin his victims' heads and wear their faces like masks. Brackett had seen photographs of the masks taken as evidence, and it had turned his stomach sour for days. What kind of evil could get into a man and make him do things like that? Brackett could not fathom it. Well, he might not have been able to put a stop to the circus invading his quiet town, but he damn sure wasn't going to leave it to the Stadies or Smith's Grove security. There would be extra deputies on duty from the moment the two monsters crossed the Warren County line until they left. He had state police on standby in case extra bodies were needed. This Halloween would not turn out the same as 1978. He would see to that. Brackett stood and walked to the porch railing where a wickedly grinning jack-o'-lantern sat watchful, its flickering orange eyes alight with curiosity. He lifted his stem and blew the candle out. He paused for a moment to study the thin wisp of smoke that rose and drifted lazily away on the breeze. Wouldn't it be nice to fly away on the wind like that, he thought, to drift so high that the cares of the world just melt away? He sighed and turned away, picking up his empty glass and stepping inside his quiet, empty home. Okay, Slash-a-Holics, this has been chapters 2 and 3 of the Halloween Massacre by Jeremy Terry. Really enjoyed these chapters. We get to revisit some characters from the original Halloween, which was nice. We also get a nice throwback to A Nightmare on Elm Street. Pretty cool little connection there, throwing Freddy into the mix, even if only, as an anecdote story from where she came from. And, finding out what was going through Brackett's mind these days, or at this point in time. I just can't believe that they would bring that show to Haddonfield. I mean, I can believe it because that's what TV shows would do, of course. But I can totally understand what would be going through like Lindsay, Tommy, and Brackett's mind, and Lori if she was around. That not only are they letting Michael out, but they're bringing him on a TV show in the town where he killed people. Of course, that's how it would really go down because that's how TV is. Soulless. It's all about that bottom line. But I really did enjoy tonight's chapters. I like the new characters we got. Throwing in a little pinch of the old and some new. I'm curious to see how this TV show is going to go down when it happens. If we're looking at a real Michael versus Leatherface, or is it more of like a Michael and Leatherface situation? Because, of course, we all would love to see them go at it, at least fight once. But seeing them going on a killing spree together would also be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about this book. So happy I was able to drop 2 chapters right now. I actually recorded chapter 2 last week, but like I had mentioned at the end of my last narration of Murder Report, I lost the audio files. So I just redid it, and I threw in chapter 3 as well. And I hope you really did enjoy this narration tonight. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. Please let Jeremy know what you think. It's not an easy task writing a book. I can tell you that after writing Celestial Slumber and even after writing Friday the 13th Quarantine. And I'm currently writing Celestial Slumber 2, and just outlining it is a chore, I'm telling you. I've got the story in my head, beginning, middle, end, where I want the characters to go, how the rematch is going to play out, how the book's going to end, the very end, which none of you will see coming, I promise you. But, it's such a different book than Celestial Slumber. It's going to be interesting. But, yeah, I really enjoyed Jeremy Terry's chapters tonight of the Halloween Massacre. Looking forward to more. And looking forward to more of Murder Report by James Acosta. Both these books are really fun. And it looks like we actually might have, by Rashad Amor, a follow-up to his Friday the 13th Curse of the Jersey Devil, Act 1. He's working on Act 2 as of right now, so a little update on that. The opening intro, the video at the beginning of this narration tonight, was created by EM. A link to their channel will be in the description below. I also shared on our community tab here on the channel an amazing Jason X video he did. And you can see the actual video with the actual music for the Halloween Massacre that he made here on the channel. I uploaded it as a teaser for the audiobook of Halloween Massacre. The song that you heard at the beginning of this narration is not from EM, just the video is. The song is a new theme song for the channel. I'm a Slash-a-Holic. But the video was done by EM, and he does great work. So, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Be excellent to each other. If you haven't done so already, please consider joining the Patreon or donating through PayPal or Cash App, or even ordering a Cameo video. All the information is in the description below and the pinned comment. Have a wonderful night. Remember, the sun never sets on those who ride into it, and I'll see you soon.
Of the night, with tales of horrific might, Josh spins his airy weave in the stories we believe. I'm a slash-a-holic, addicted to the fright. Narration so hypnotic, Josh keeps me up all night.